Joining us now on the line is Ann Coulter. She is the author of many New York Times bestsellers. Her current tome is Resistance is Futile. Ann, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you, Howie.
Very good. I just spent about 3 or 4 minutes with a guy who was telling me that Mueller should be the man of the year because he's done such great work. And then I started asking him, what exactly has he done that's so great? And he couldn't tell me a single thing, Ann. I know you've run into this yourself, but it's always...
It's pretty embarrassing. In fact, it's quite striking. I was just telling a friend when the latest, I guess, the report on Michael Cohen came out. I've been busy. I've been going to Christmas parties, so I didn't have time to actually find out what was going on. So I'm watching my favorite network, MSNBC, of course, and probably, just getting ready to go out. I listened to 2 hours of it. I had no idea what crime they were talking about. They just keep saying, well, the President of the United States, he's implicated in two serious felonies. He can be indicted. He'll be indicted. Of course, it's impeachable. It's a high crime and misdemeanor. He'll be indicted as soon as he's out of office. It's very, very serious, trying to throw the election. You had no idea what the underlying alleged offense was, which goes right back to Coulter rule. They'll give you the details when the details help them. When the details don't help them, you will never get the details. And I defy you. In fact, I had to do a Nexus search on that to see if we can actually get down to them talking about Michael Cohen paying off the Playboy bunny and the porn star a pretty paltry amount of money.
Right.
To not be blathering about this during a presidential campaign. Okay, two crucial elements of this. I mean, almost all campaign finance violations are stupid, and the worst thing that happens is you have to pay a fine.
Just ask Barack Obama or John Edwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Barack had to pay a huge fine for violating the campaign finance laws. You and I and people who believe in the First Amendment, of course, think all of these campaign finance laws are unconstitutional. You can spend money on speech, and this is core First Amendment speech. In any event, for this particular campaign finance violation, there are two crucial requirements. Number one, you have to know it was a campaign finance violation. For 3 years, I mean, not only is it partially true, but liberals have been telling us Trump is an idiot, knows nothing, whatever his IQ is, he does know nothing about politics. That much is manifest. He's a reality TV star, he's a developer, he trademarks his name, he's the Apprentice guy. He runs for president. The idea, they have to prove, they would have to get him on tape saying that he knew that this was against the law, but screw it, we're going to do it anyway. Number two, he would have to be paying off these two, depending on your point of view, grifters or women he had sex with, for the sole purpose of helping his campaign. This is where the campaign finance violations of this sort always fall apart, because basically any expense you have during a campaign, you could get you could have an appendectomy, and they could say, well, yeah, because you thought you wouldn't get the nomination if you were dead. I mean, anything. You get your teeth whitened. So they would have to, and in this particular case, this is a married man. My guess is he has a prenup. He has a daughter. He has grandchildren. So they have to prove that he absolutely had no concern about Ivanka finding out, about Melania finding out, about his grandkids finding out. That did not figure into this at all. The only reason he paid these women off was because he was running for president, which, of course, is absurd. The reason this came up when he was running for president was because, again, either the grifters or the women he had sex with knew that this is a good time to shake him down for money.
Right, because,
this was their timing, not his.
Right. And the other thing, too, is, and people are talking about this now, or, I mean, people not on MSNBC or CNN, obviously, but, here's Michael Flynn. General Flynn is going to be sentenced in about a week from now for lying to the FBI. And Comey said initially that he didn't lie to the FBI. The two guys who interviewed him, one of whom was Strzok, said he didn't lie to the FBI. But the reason they kept it the story alive was because somebody in the Obama administration committed a felony by leaking the transcript of his conversations, his legal conversations with the Russian ambassador to the Washington Post. And yet, he's going before court. He's not going to get any jail time, I guess, but he's still going to be a felon. I mean, he's still, embarrassed and humiliated.
Yes,
he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Details.
Right, but
yeah. This is how they.
Where is the investigation?
Prosecutors get.
Where's the investigation of who leaked the transcript? That's a clear felony. I mean, that's a slam dunk.
Really good people. Really good people he's hired. Jared's going to be all over this. Really good people totally know what they're doing. I'm so glad Trump hired the people he hired. No, and as per the Ann Coulter rule, you will never hear the details. It will just be Mike Flynn felon, Mike Flynn felon, Mike Flynn felon. And I was thinking I would like the transcripts of his phone call with the Russian ambassador leaked, because it never really made sense. Why would he lie about a perfectly legal conversation? And I think that my suspicion, perhaps I'm wrong, that was when Obama had recently thrown out a couple of Russian quote spies.
Right, exactly, yeah, and they were talking about sanctions too, I think, and the Trump people are coming in 3 weeks. So if he hadn't taken the call from the Russian ambassador,
okay, hold on. Let me finish this thought. Technically, that is a sanction, throwing out Russian agents in the United States.
Yeah.
Most people, when they hear sanction, they think of an economic sanction.
Right.
They are thinking of money. We are not sending money to Russia. So my suspicion is that when he was asked if he discussed sanctions against Russia with the Russian ambassador, he wasn't thinking about, oh, don't worry about those spies being thrown out, because you will remember Putin turned around and did not throw out America's spies. In fact, he threw that Christmas party for them, and invited all the kids from the American embassy over. He responded very favorably, you want the incoming president, Trump, you don't want an overreaction. I'm sure Obama would have been fine with that phone call. But I think the lie was, to paraphrase Bill Clinton, although sanction I think actually does have a variable meaning. It depends on what the meaning of sanction is, and I bet you, because it just makes no sense. Why would you lie about a legal conversation? So why doesn't the Trump administration release that phone call so we can see exactly how silly this is?
Why don't they release the unredacted FISA applications too? I mean, I don't know how many times the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, Joe DeGeneva, you and everybody, Sean Hannity, everybody wants him to release those documents. It's not like this is going to, mean the difference between being charged with obstruction of justice or not. They're going to go after him anyway. He might as well get it out there, I think, at this point, I
totally agree. And I suspect the reason he is not is because he has the old deep state type saying, no, you can't, it will reveal state secrets. Oh, give me a break. Yeah.
Sources and methods. I love that. Sources and methods, which is a term for cover-ups, right? That's what it is.
Well, it's also, in a way, it's more banal than that. I think all of these, deep state government bureaucrats, they love to feel like they're James Bond when they really, really aren't. And so they try to describe every little thing they do as, like you say, sources and method, it's so... And no, you're really not doing anything that important. Give me a break. Just release them.
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to mention that there's a really good story about the new mayor of Atlantic City. Guess what? He's a crook, Ann. I know that shocks you, that he's a crook.
He could have a career in Chicago.
So the mayor and the FBI raid, Atlantic City is stained once again. And it's really a good story by the New York Times. They got everything summed up. But there's one thing that's missing in the story, Ann. See if you... What? His party affiliation.
I'm sorry, what am I... Oh, that was so stupid of me. I'm sorry. I was distracted for a moment.
I read it 3 times. I read it 3 times. The 9th paragraph, he stole
We don't know what party he belongs to.
Listen, we have hints. We have hints, though, that he stole some money meant for the Democratic Party, rerouted to his own coffers. That's in the 9th paragraph. And then in the 31st paragraph, we learned that Mr. Gillum had a Democrat running mate So that probably means he might be a Democrat. And then 3 paragraphs further down, we learn that Mr. Gillum's Republican opponent, a guy named Don Guardian, he's a Republican. So I'm gonna guess that probably this latest corrupt mayor in Atlantic City is a Democrat, but I can't be sure, Ann. I can't be positive.
Good call, Howie Carr. Yes, well, that's the New York Times standards and practices.
Yeah. Instead, that faith in the political system has been shaken, this is the New York Times, by that frustratingly familiar scene outside Mr. Gillum's home. Grim-faced men and women in blue Navy windbreakers with 3 bold yellow letters stretched across the back. Would you care to guess what those 3 bold yellow letters stitched across the back are? FBI. Federal Bureau of Investigation.
That isn't really all that familiar in my neighborhood.
Well, come on, Ann. Come on. You know that.
And I see we have another unaccompanied child in this country who just stabbed his girlfriend to death. But I know that not from watching MSNBC, CNN, or reading the New York Times, only Breitbart.
Yes, there was also an illegal alien from Honduras who ran over a teenage girl who was on her way to her Christmas festival in Pass Christian, Mississippi, over the weekend.
Yeah.
And he was identified as man in the headline. But I must say that in the lead to the story, they did say an illegal alien from Honduras. But I mean, again, it's like even if the reporter is trying to do the right thing, he's going to be undercut by the editors.
Writer will save the day. No, I was just talking to a normal person. You know, not everyone is political obsessive like we are. And I was talking to a normal person who ran into an old college classmate who does security for the government, but not at the border. Some of his guys, though, are at the border. And he said he's talking to this guy who said, "This is insane. We can't do this. We've got to have a wall." So he's talking to my friend, normal person again, and the normal person was saying, "Nobody knows this. Nobody knows this. We're all up here. People talk about the unaccompanied children, but I talked to this guy who has employees down at the border, and he's telling me nothing will work but a wall."
Right.
No, the media censorship really does work, Howie.
It does. It does. And like I said, I just ran into that caller. That was an amazing thing. You know, he knew nothing. He wanted to make Bob Mueller the man of the year, but he couldn't tell me a single thing that he'd done. Ann Coulter, what's the title of your book?
Resistance is futile, how the Trump-hating left lost its collective mind.
Great, Ann, and I'm going to send you a copy of my new book, Kennedy Babylon Volume 2. I'm holding it up for the camera right now. Give Grace the address where you want me to send it to, and I'll get it out tomorrow. It just came out today. Just came out.
Okay, thanks, Howie.
Thanks. And you can order the book at HowieCarrShow.com. Click on store. It's available now. It's in hand. I'm Howie Carr.
States that wanted to get a foothold in our uranium market, they got it, and then kicked back 145 million people involved to the Clinton Foundation. Or the dirty dossier, which I think is the biggest story from the weekend, and that's James Comey admitting that they never verified the dossier, which the Nunes-Grassley-Graham memos tell us was the bulk of the application, original and 3 subsequent applications, but they signed it anyway. And they never told the FISA judges that Hillary paid for it. Now, to me, that is a huge story, but nobody cares.
And by the way, apparently Comey said in the same hearing that when he left the FBI, he had seen no evidence of collusion between Trump and the Russians.
We still don't have any evidence. I mean, that's the irony here. But we do have evidence of a Russian dossier that was paid for by another candidate, that was disseminated to the American people to convince them not to vote for Donald Trump and influence the election with Russian lies. That we do know that, right? That's provable. That's right. So where does this, look, to me, this is, I think, a strategy now where these 5 forces that I have been discussing for a long time, and that would be the deep state. Now I think most people understand what that means. Democrats, the media, never Trumpers who can't acknowledge that this guy has governed conservatively and successfully, and then weak Republicans. And I think that it's now converging into a feeding frenzy in the hopes that they can through 1,000 cuts, either remove him from office or render him unelectable in 2020.
Well, sure. I mean, look, this whole effort is I'm going to go back. This is an effort to destroy President Trump. This is not an effort to get at the truth. It's not an effort to enforce the rule of law. And your point's exactly right. I mean, if Bill Clinton can get $500,000 from a Russian bank, why isn't that questionable? If the Clinton Foundation can get millions and millions of dollars from Russians, why isn't that a question? If Hillary can destroy 33,000 emails, why isn't that a question? And, of course, none of them are, because this is a purely left-wing bureaucratic effort to protect the establishment and to protect the old order, and their method of doing it is to try to destroy the president, and has nothing to do with the rule of law. And I do want to go back to what I said at the very beginning. A very simple test for Mueller is release the entire transcript of all 70 hours of interviews and let the country judge Cohen. But let us see all the different ways he lied. Let us see all the different ways that the prosecutors tried to lead him and coach him and talk him into where he now is. And I don't think they can release that stuff. I don't think they can allow the country to see just how hard they pressured this guy and just how they maneuvered him and manipulated him to get the agreements they got.
I mean, it was pretty interesting, and I guess they're going to want to indict Roger Stone and James Corsi.